All right, you guys know we love having the comedians on the show. I mean, we had our pal Brad Williams with us a couple of days ago. Jared Freid is going to be here next week. All right, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Dania Improv. I think we're going on the Friday show, but nonetheless, I've not seen Jared, and this is the first time that we're having him on the show, so we appreciate him hanging out with us. Jared, you are a regular now on Good Morning Football. I watch Good
I
Morning Football, often enough on NFL Network. How did that gig come about? It's a great gig.
I have a blast. Thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure to hang with you. I Peter Schrager during the pandemic reached out over email, cold emailed me just to let me know that he loves my podcast. And he's a huge comedy fan, and he went down the rabbit hole that, all of us go down when you're looking into something or someone. And he's like, I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I've become a fan of your comedy. And so from then on, we just kept in touch. He came on the show and was a guest. And he's like, he couldn't be a nicer guy. Couldn't be like a better, like, hang, and just like a great dude. And then when my special came out on Netflix, he was like, come on the show. And, when I go on a show, you bring the energy, sing, dance, and dust. Let's have some fun. And I know football enough, and I also know that I'm not a football expert, so I think like that's a fun thing for them, is to switch up the show. So I was like, and at the end of the segment they were all like happy and laughing, and I was like I live down the street, I'd come back anytime. They're like, how about you come back every other week? I was like, I'm down. And then I've tried to bring different segments every time, just something to like throw them off. Like, I just want to go on and like get them surprised and have them, and like change the energy, and change the energy of the show, as far as like go from like, you've been sitting here for 3 hours talking about how many receptions a receiver can get in the whole season. It's like, I'm sure that they were looking for something to like lighten the mood and be just like a little bit off center of football. So I think I kind of brought that for them, and it was like, it's a blast. I love doing it.
What's the best instance of you getting a message like that, or meeting someone that you find out knows who you are and is a fan of your work?
That one's pretty cool. I got a message from Jeff Garlin randomly on my website. That was kind of
Yeah.
interesting and funny. Like, I just randomly an email being like, I thought the special was hilarious. And like, it's just a nice thing. I think like, it's cool to know your celebrity a little bit. Like, he probably knows, like, getting a message from him means a lot. It's really nice to hear, compliments of any kind. Like, I think, it's funny. We live in a day and age where, like, for some reason, we've become incredibly bad at just being normal people and just saying a nice thing, or saying nothing at all. Sometimes saying nothing is very nice to do as well, and not letting people know where they stand with you and how. Oh, I go after shows. Oh, my wife's a big fan. I didn't know about it, but now I'm here and it was pretty good. I kind of laughed. And you're like, cool, dude. I don't know where to go with that. Now I have to carry that guy through a respectable, classy conversation. Like, sometimes I just feel like I'm putting people on my back to be classy. And it's like, I don't know what they're looking for. But sometimes people have that energy with a comedian where they just want to, like, they want to put their dukes up. And it's like, I don't have the energy, to tell you the truth. I'd rather just give up. You want to be funny, go for it. I just went on stage. I'm done. I'm exhausted.
Well, I think I run into a similar thing sometimes, where if you meet someone like that, regular person who's a fan, it comes off that maybe they want you to be funny for them, but I think they want to be funny for you. Where
Right.
I'll meet someone and they'll ask me like, hey, what do you think about the Dolphins? And they can hear my opinion on the Dolphins every day on ZASLOW Show 2.0. They want to give me their opinion on the
Right.
Dolphins.
They've been waiting to spar with you. They want to
Yes.
go up against, the Brahma Bull of Dolphin stuff. They want to
Yes.
show you, I know some Dolphin stuff too. Yeah. And like, I get it. I get where it comes from. It's just like, that's why, like, I think like a lot of comedians get a reputation for being miserable. It's like, yeah, we're getting you at an 11. It's like, how about you bring it down to a 6 and we'll be cool.
And everyone and when they run into you, or if you go on a double date or something, there's probably this pressure to perform, right? Like, they be funny
Right.
for us,
Well,
be our monkey tonight.
I think if that's the pressure only comes when someone says that to you. Like it just reveals what they said about you earlier. They're like, oh, he thinks he's funny. And it's like, when, and then you're out with someone, they go, when's the funny coming? And it's like, oh, I guess you didn't buy it before you got here. I guess, like it's just, I don't know. You deal with like, here's the thing, especially with men. I am very thankful that like the audience that likes me is a lot of women like me, which is very easy and fun, and they come to party and have a good time. But a lot of male ego is built on being funny. Like a lot of what you stack yourself up on is being funny. So when you say I'm a comedian, it's weirdly an insult to people. It's like if you just saying that's my job, people are like, oh, so you think you're funny? Tell me a joke. Oh, well, really? What does that mean? And it's like, it means nothing. It means I don't care. Like, I'll walk away. I'm done.
It's like the thing that you want to do to get women, I do it and people pay me for it.
Right. And listen, I really don't, yeah, I don't want your woman. I don't, you can have a nice date night. It doesn't have to be about me.
Now, I know building into a successful comic is extremely difficult. You come from a Jewish family. I come from a Jewish family. Our mothers want us to be doctors or lawyers or the president. So when you
my parents didn't think that highly of me. They were like, I don't know, he's more Secretary of State material.
But when you tell them, all right, I'm gonna go through the grind and I'm trying to become a comedian, was that a difficult sell?
Yeah, I think because like there's no thought of your kid being funny. Like I don't think like a lot of like, that's not like what you think. Like, oh, maybe, oh, this kid's hilarious. No parent thinks their kid's funny past the age of 4. Kids say the darndest thing. It's not like teenagers say the darndest thing, like, so I think it's always going to be a surprise. And it's also like what, especially like Jewish families, the idea is like, how are you going to have a family? How's this going to be long term? There's a lot of like logistical things that they're like, this doesn't make sense. Where do you get paid? How do you pay for health insurance? All the things that when you go into a creative career, you're delusional enough to like put aside. Your parents sit on your shoulder and make sure that you have anxiety and your blood pressure goes up. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to be a comedian. What about your health insurance? What are you going to do about a job? Are you going to retire ever? It's like, okay, get out of here. Like, why are you the ghost of Christmas future? It's horrific.
So what was it like the first time that your parents decided to come to a show?
It was interesting. When you first start comedy, you're either like really weird or somewhat sexual, or and that's like the easiest thing. You're looking to shock to try and get people to laugh. So, I think that was, I give them a lot of credit, looking back on it. Like they'd come to shows and they would sit in the back and they'd have fun. And, my dad got it as far as an entrepreneurial thing. He was like, cause I kind of like when I started doing comedy, I was like, I'm just gonna be funny for money. I don't know how it's going to happen. I was like, cause I wasn't like hugging my George Carlin doll growing up. Like there's some people that are like that and I'm not like that. And I did improv, I did sketch, I did everything. I kind of took it as like grad school. So my dad kind of saw that and was like, okay, you'll figure out what this is. Maybe you'll turn into writing or like production or whatever it is. And stand-up kind of stuck. And then my mom was never like on board. She was like, this is stupid. I don't know what you're doing. And then I remember I was a few years in, she came to a show and I was bombing so hard. And then mid-bomb, my mom, I just hear this huge laugh and it's my mom and she's laughing at how hard I'm bombing. And I look at the crowd, I was like, yeah, this is how bad a crowd you are. The only one laughing is my mom. And then they like died laughing at that. And then
was she laughing at how bad you were bombing, or was she laughing to try and get everyone else to laugh?
She was laughing at how bad the bomb was, like how unbelievably and like how I was handling it. Cause like when you bomb, there's like 2 levels to a bomb, especially as you get better at comedy. There's the making fun of the bomb where you like can feel like 10 people in on the joke where they're like, yeah, this is awful. And they like believe in you, but they like also are like, something is off. This isn't going well. And you kind of like, you're thankful for those people as you're bombing. You're like, thank you for understanding like the 3rd level of this. Like there's this other thing going on. And then Yeah, so that's like a fun laugh when it's like, oh my God, you see how horrible this is too. Like, a bomb is people going, what is he doing? Like it's like they're offended by that you've even thought this was funny before.
Well, and sometimes, I mean, yes, you can bomb, but I've been at shows where I know the comedian is doing a decent enough job and the crowd just fucking sucks.
Right. Well, that's when you have to like be present, like that happens. I did 5 spots last night at the Comedy Cellar, and each crowd was a little different. And it's a Tuesday. I went on stage Tuesday on an 8 o'clock show, a 9 o'clock show, a 10 o'clock show, an 11 o'clock show. And it's like when on a Tuesday night, there's a very different person that's out at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night than there is at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So like you have to kind of acknowledge it. Like the 8 o'clock crowd, hey, it's date night. This is our big night out in the city. We're doing something different. We're out. We're having a couple drinks. We're calm people. And then it's like you get to 11 and like they're a little weird. And it's like they should be weird. Who goes out at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night? If you're an American, then you just have no job, or you're completely rich and kind of removed from everything. If you're foreign, then this is an ESL class for you, I guess. Like you just came to learn the language, So and you have to acknowledge that, and it's going to be a little weird. Like, and then it's you go to the show on a Friday. That's date night. I made a plan. I gotta get laid after this. Like don't fuck this up for me, dude. Like there's a. So I think if you like acknowledge where you are in time and space, you can come back from that. And that's something that like, I have fun with all the time. Like last night I was on stage and I did my opening joke and it went okay enough. And you're getting your levels. That's what I always say. Like the first joke, I'm just getting my levels. I'm just figuring out what they are. Cause that's, I'm judging them. Like there's no thought of like, will this joke work? It's an opening joke. It's going to work. So if it doesn't, or the levels of it, I can go, okay, they kind of stink, or, oh, okay, they're pretty good. Now, also included in that ranking is they're too good, so like you get like the levels. So I did the opening joke and it did okay. And then I looked to my right, this guy, his face didn't even like blink. And I just like look at him and I go, hey man, how are you? Where are you? I look at him, I go, where are you from, man? And he's like looking at me and I go, yeah, I'm talking to you. And he goes, I am from France. And I'm like, good. And I said to him, I go, good. I'm very happy. Now I'm not going to run into traffic because you didn't like my joke. Like now I realize you came here just to be here. You came here to find a seat and maybe to have a drink while people yell at you. I go, I wouldn't go to a show in France that was all French speaking, but we have different vacation plans. So you're acknowledging the idea that like, okay, joke went okay. Why is it? Oh, there was a group on for French people.
Yeah.
So
does killing feel better than bombing feels terrible?
It's the same to me. Bombing feels horrific. Killing feels like the best thing ever. So they're equal. And I was told that when I started, like if you don't like if you kill and it doesn't feel like a fucking drug, I was told stop doing it. Like it's not worth it. It's never going to be worth it. You're never going to get out of this. What else you're looking for?
Did you can you remember the first time you felt like that and you're like I got to do another show tonight?
Absolutely. I bombed for the first month I tried this, and because I was doing so many different forms of comedy, because I was doing sketch and doing, like I told you, I was doing all the different comedies, sketch, improv, stand up. And I was like, I got to see if this feels good. And I got that advice, like kill and then see how you feel. And I remember I went to an open mic a month in, like not really getting how to do it. And then a month in, I went to an open mic at Otto's Shrunken Head, which is in like the East Village. They had a midnight open mic on a Saturday night. And I brought my buddy from high school who knew I was doing this, and he was like out that night, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to this midnight Saturday open mic, and I'm 25, and I'm like, like most people are out like trying to meet chicks and going out and trying to like do shit, and I'm at this open mic with my notebook. And I remember he's like, I want to come, I got nothing, my night's over. And I was like, okay. And he came and met me, and I crushed. I had it was the first time I ever done that. And and it's funny because we kind of looked at each other like we were in like, like a coming of age movie. And we're like, oh my God, that was crazy. Like we both were surprised by what just happened. And I remember we were like, let's get fucked up. We got to go, like, we got to keep it going. And at that point you find out why, so many comics have substance issues. You're like, oh, okay, this is maybe a problem. This is, you got to figure out how to handle that. But yeah, that was definitely the first one.
I love hearing about, and again, Jared Freid, Dania Beach Improv next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, DaniaBeachImprov.com. You can get your tickets. My wife and I are going to be there. I think we're going on Friday. I love hearing, especially since you're based out of New York City, I love hearing stories about comedians like yourself getting bumped by the really huge comedians. Do you have a good story like that when you were younger, first starting out, and you got bumped?
Younger, I still get bumped. Sitting here, I don't have bumped. So I do all the clubs in New York. The Comedy Cellar is like home to me. And when I started the Comedy Cellar, I started hosting there. And when you host, that's cool because you get to bring on stage the big names and you get to like feel what that is. You get to see people because when the Comedy Cellar, the reason it's so popular right now is that like any night, anyone can show up. And it's, and that's the truth. So people go in the back of their head, maybe someone shows up. And you go and when someone does show up, you see like the happiness people have that they have, not just that they're going to see the person perform, but from my vantage point, they seem just happy that they have the story to tell. Like I got the thing that I can go be like, you're not going to believe what happened last night. Guess who showed up? Oh my God. And so I brought legitimately most people on stage to see that. And Louis C.K. obviously gets a big pop, and Kevin Hart was just through the other night. He gets huge pops. Chappelle, obviously. The one that was funniest to me, that was like the one I didn't expect is now I'm blanking on his name. I was hosting and I'm on stage and it gets really loud in the back of the room. And I'm at the Village Underground. The Comedy Cellar has the regular cellar, the Village Underground, and then 2 other rooms in the Fat Black Pussycat. So I'm at the Village Underground. They got music. It's their biggest room. Mm-hmm. And I'm on stage. It starts getting so loud in the back. And I'm like trying, and I think it's the crowd. So I'm like, hey, guy, I'm trying to like negotiate this. And this is when I was hosting. And so I get the crowd a little bit calmed down, but it's really loud towards the door. And I'm like, it's where the comedian sits. So I'm like, someone really came in and made a fucking commotion. And I bring the next comic on stage and then I come off and I'm like wondering what happened. And it's Tracy Morgan. And he had just landed in his private jet with like legitimately 12 people by his side. Like it's like Tracy Morgan and crew. Mm-hmm. And the comics on stage and they're just like hanging in the back as if it's like a restaurant. And you're like, and it was like, and Tracy's one of the funniest people alive. And so then I'm like, so we light the comic that had just gone up and I go on stage like to bring up Tracy. And people are even like looking at the back. The comic that's on stage is like, what's going on? Like he's like, so I go on stage and I go, okay, every now and again we get a special guest. Tonight's one of those nights. Give it up for Tracy Morgan. And people reacted like, because I think they don't, in your list of people who might show up, he's not on the list, even though he is a big deal.
Sure.
And I think he was also like just coming back from like, the bus incident and all that stuff. People went legitimately fucking nuts. And I'll never forget it because then he hugged me for a solid 10 Mississippi. Like, and he just held on. He wouldn't let go. And I'm like trying to get away from him. And it's just like count 10 Mississippi. And that's how long he hugged me for on stage. And then I got off stage and he was hilarious. But that's the one I remember, the pop,
I want to come to the Comedy Cellar the next time that I'm in New York City because, like, and I've read the rules and stuff and everything because, and this happens everywhere now. I think people's behavior is so poor these days, just
Yeah.
so poor. And hopefully you don't run into it, like the Dania Beach Improv next week. But man, like people's behavior sucks, and I feel like if someone is not behaving properly at the Comedy Cellar, they yank you the fuck out.
Yeah, they move pretty quick there, but there's different forms of being rude, and that's the problem. Is like, everyone comes to a comedy show, especially a stand-up show, thinking it's going to be something different. As weird as that sounds, it's getting less like that now. But like, if you go to a stand-up show, someone thinks it's going to be improv. It's going to be, oh, they're going to talk to us. They want to make fun of us. They want to roast me. Everyone comes in, and then it becomes apparent very quickly, or it should, what it's going to be. The Cellar will take you out of there pretty quick. But, if you're just chit-chatting at your seat, some people come in there and they're like, they start talking like it's Applebee's.
Sucks.
And you're like, you go, I don't understand what you thought this was going to be. I had a woman, she yelled at me the other night, and it happens. There's nothing you can really do to prepare for that. She yelled at me asking, I just finished, it was a late show. It was a Monday night, I think, or Sunday or something. And she yelled like a question, but and it's like, that's crazy to begin with. Like, it's just crazy. But you can't get inside the mind of a murder, So she asked a question about my set, and like the people who were listening were like, that's just dumb. And I go, you are the worst listener I have ever come across. And she's like fighting back on it. And like, then what happens is, because like, I'm going to be better than anyone that yells at me. Mm-hmm. So it's like, they get embarrassed, and then they want to like yell you down. So that's what's hard. It's like, I don't mind if someone's rude during a show, because I do understand, like, you can forget yourself. It happens. I get it. I mind when someone can't just take the L and just be like, okay, I got made fun of, laugh it off, my bad. Like, my favorite audience members are the ones that like forget themselves, yell out, and you're like, make fun of it. And I'm making fun of it. I'm not trying to like make them feel badly. Like, that's crazy. Like, I just want them to like hear the message of like, this was a crazy moment you just created.
And the way that it was also explained to me too from other comedian friends is because of all the clips on social these days,
right?
Guys don't want to give away their set, so everyone's posting crowd interaction, and so some of these people believe that, I this is all I see on social, I'm supposed to yell things and interact with the comedian, and you're not really.
I've heard that theory a lot lately. I don't know. I think people are smarter than that. I would hope. Like, I understand, like, you see these things on social media, like most of them are to highlight like a weird moment. Like, and I do understand comics don't want to like lose their material, so they're putting out crowd work. And I think you have to be selective of what you're going to put out there. Like, someone yelling at you, if it's like extreme, that's fun to put out there if you like made it funny. If you're like having a conversation with someone and it turns into this funny moment, that's fun. But if it's just like nothing, like, I think we have to be better like arbiters of like what should go online and not. But I don't know. I think if your whole thing, I think that happens more if a comedian like goes on the road, it's like their show and all their stuff is just crowd work stuff. It happens for them. Mm-hmm. So if like they got a fan base based on, I put out these clips that people yell at me, then that's going to happen for them. But I think like at the Cellar, more or less, like, it's not like every show is just this like town hall meeting,
Jared Freid, every other week, like you said, Good Morning Football. The show is terrific. And then I noticed Jared. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know who that is. And he's on Good Morning Football pretty often. So every other Friday, Dania Beach Improv next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you have a special that's out on Netflix, right?
It's on Netflix right now. It's called 37 and Single. It's there waiting for people. Watch it anytime. Share it with a friend. Yeah.
Appreciate you joining us today. Thanks a lot, Jared. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thank you. Make sure you say hello. This was awesome. Thank you.